Good afternoon or morning, whatever time you're viewing this, folks, and welcome to this episode of Creamy Cast. I have a really incredible guest live with me here. Well, not live here in Bean Studios. We're doing a Zoom call as the matriarch of geoengineering, of writing about geoengineering. That is, Elana Freeland is my guest today, and she is the author of 4 books on the subject of geoengineering. Her first one was Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. That was written in 2014. She also wrote Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown in 2018. And then Geoengineered Transhumanism, How the Environment Has Been Weaponized by Chemicals, Electromagnetism, and Nanotechnology for Synthetic Biology. That was written in 2021. Her most recent book, just published 2 months ago, The Geoengineered Transhuman, the hidden technologies of HARP, chemtrails, 5G, 6G, nanotechnology, synthetic biology, and the scientific effort to transform humanity. So I think we have a pretty incredible subject to talk about here today. But with that, welcome Elana Freeland to CreamyCast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks. And you guys at OGA are doing good work.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And a lot of it we can attribute to some of the work that you've done. As I was telling you before the show, I got into your work probably around 2 years ago, and I was put on to you by OGA's Rob Williams, who is a close friend and mentor of mine here in the Green Mountain State. And when I started looking into your work, man, oh man, were my eyes just like wide open. I still when I read your work, I'm like there's so many layers to the subject of geoengineering. And I think that your books, your 4 books, and how they've come out subsequently, I think people that read them will probably relate with their with your exploration of the subject, meaning they realize over time how complex this subject is. And your book, the first one compared to this most recent one, just there's so much information packed into it. But I think we have some time, and let's unravel that a little bit. But just as a introduction, maybe if you wouldn't mind just telling folks about who you are.
Well, I've been a writer since I was 8 years old, I think. But I've gotten involved in several large things in my life, would be how I'd put it. It's not about my personal life, it's about my public life. I mean, the first thing, just to give you a hint of that, was that at 16, I was chosen by 800 and some girls to represent them in Washington, D.C. at Girls Nation.
Wow.
And Bill Clinton referred, when he was president, he referred several times to being at Boys Nation that same summer. And we were in the Rose Garden, and he even referred to the Rose Garden with John F. Kennedy. And I'd spent the week with Lyndon Baines Johnson, not an admirable man in any way that I
No.
could, even as a girl, I could see there was something creepy about him. And then I spent just an hour or so with Kennedy, and he mentioned that, I looked like his wife. So he made a gesture toward me that was a bit personal. It affected me as a 16-year-old girl tremendously. And so when he was murdered 3 months later, I was invited by the civic groups in my town to give a recount of my time with Kennedy and my meeting with Kennedy. So it was a huge moment for me because, truthfully, people were running out of the room crying the whole time I was talking. It, it was it was
Wow.
like it was like wow. I started to come awake personally, and I was a 60s generation person. That's the second part. I was born at the same time, born in 1947. when the National Security Act was passed and the CIA was created by, I have to tell you, by Nazis, by Reinhard Gehlen, an SS general of the Nazis. And um, so, you know, when I began to wake up to this Cold War thing that has basically been my whole life in the Cold War, up to you would say 92, but the truth is that it's continued. Only now it's moved into another phase, and I call this phase the secret space program phase. That's a term I got from Catherine Austin Fitts and Joseph Farrell, who both talked about and wrote about the secret space program. And then Catherine worked with a lawyer friend of hers, also an economist, who together they discovered the $21 trillion missing from the American budget. And it seemed that it possibly went into the secret space program. So, so I was alerted and I was already deep into putting forth what I thought geoengineering was in each book. Each book, it sounded like, wow, this is it. This is the extent. But then I would always discover something in the material that would go, no, no, there's more here. There's more. So I'd have to write another book. And that's kind of how the books happen. I didn't write them certainly for fame and money because I'm not making much of either of that. Because I'm a conspiracy theorist, right? I'm a tinfoil hat.
Sure.
Uh, they've used that term ever since the Kennedy assassination as a way to shut people up like me who are looking in the basement and under the rug. So, uh, I just keep going. I just want to go till I get to the end. Well, I am at the end that I am able to write. I am with this book, the Geoengineered Transhuman, the fourth book, and now I'm writing the very last book. And I swear this is true. I've said this before. People out there are probably laughing,
I've
but
heard you say that before. I've heard you.
but this one, the final book, which I'm writing now, is on primarily synthetic biology and how it is part of not just the space fence, not just the delivery systems that we're subject to from the sky, but the delivery systems of big medicine and big pharma, namely the jabs, the over-the-counter meds, the endless SSRIs that people are on because they're depressed, because they're psychotic, or they've been told they're psychotic, whatever. Uh, this is all sort of the corporate uh, public-private partnership, I love that term, that has been created as a way to run a so-called democracy. Well, if it's the democracy that we have, it's the one Plato talked about. That is the worst form of government, and it makes it very easy for a population to be controlled. So this is not the republic that was originally came from your area of the country, from
Yeah.
the 30 states.
Well,
Uh,
you mentioned, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned the creation of the CIA in 1947. I also believe the Air Force was created in 1947. Correct me if I'm mistaken. And you said it was created by Nazis. And I think a lot of people, when they hear that off the top, they're like, "What? That doesn't even make sense." But I would love for you to just give a little bit more insight to that.
Oh, happily, happily, because it is one of the most hidden factors in this country. Because when the Cold War started, we were involved in an operation. Well, there were a few, but the main one was Operation Paperclip, and what that was run by Alan Dulles, the new uh, chief of the new CIA, and his brother, John Foster Dulles, was the Secretary of State. Sort of like when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, if you recall what she did. She
Sure.
stole, lied, killed, you name it. That was her idea of being Secretary of State. And John Foster Dulles was very similar because these two men to my mind, really destroyed this country by changing all the records of these very intelligent, technically astute scientists that they brought and doctors that they brought in. Not the war was not even over yet, and it was all plans, and everything was on the move in 43. So that's when I say that the CIA was founded by Nazis. I'm not being metaphorical here, and I'm not talking about their thought life. I'm talking about real SS Nazis. We brought them in, we changed their records, we put them in our bases, our hospitals, our universities. We gave everything to them in exchange for, and we wanted their technology on not just exotic propulsion craft, which they had. They had flying saucers. Yes, they did. But for all of the things they were doing, they did tremendous work on mind control in the camps with millions of prisoners and children. Oh my gosh, I mean, it's there. When I first came out with Operation Paperclip and was pushing it in 2014 when I was writing, I was, called names, but I knew what I was talking about.
Sure.
The books on Paperclip did not come out until after that. And now there are, oh, I don't know, maybe a dozen books on Paperclip. You can read it yourself and understand what that did to this country. And in fact, during these last 4 years, when the clown show, I call it, was going on in Washington, D.C., uh, I recognized the same stuff. It was the same crew in some ways, absolutely identical. And they were after destroying all that's best about the United States, the little that we have left, I should add. And so, I was raised by immigrants from Romania and my grandparents, and till I was 10. And my grandmother loved this country. So
Yeah.
you're up
Well,
on that.
well,
So I've been dedicated to uh, spilling the beans about the truth of what happened to this nation ever since, I remembered being with her the day that she pulled me off a bus. We were going somewhere in Detroit, Michigan, and she pulled me. I said, "Grandma, this isn't our stop." Oh, but there's a man on the bus with the evil eye. She said it in Romanian, and I said, I basically probably said something like so. I mean, I was just little, but it didn't seem to me that important. But she knew, and she started to weep right there, standing there crying. And I said, "Grandma, what's wrong? What's wrong?" She said, "Dracula has come to America. Dracula is here."
wow.
And I never forgot that because when I found out that Dracula was, yeah, the leader of Romania at a certain point, but Dracula, blood-sucking vampires,
Yeah.
Dracula. Um, I began to realize what she was talking about, and that's how I feel about the last 4 years of the clown show. We had Dracula running the whole country, and now it's certainly not perfect,
No.
but we are now back in a secret space program manifesto. That's what's going on between President Trump and Elon Musk. Now, President Trump is the nephew of John Trump,
Yes, that's right.
the engineer who was, if not present at Tesla's basically murder by the FBI. He was the man to whom Tesla's stolen papers and experiments were passed until they could figure out what to do next.
Can I just add a quick note on that? I just want to add that John Trump Donald Trump's uncle, so his father's brother, was a professor at MIT, and he was actually the longest serving professor at MIT, the longest serving in history at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And I believe they're in Boston, or maybe they're just in Cambridge, which is right next door to
Right.
Harvard and a handful of other prestigious universities in the United States.
That's right. Yes, and so we have the second term of the nephew of John Trump. We are deep into Tesla technology now. That's what HARP is. HARP is totally Tesla technology.
Ah, okay.
So now we're in scalar energy. Scalar energy is what's they're basically taking the energy of nature and weaponizing it into probably, I just read something yesterday. It said that the greatest weapon was the atomic bomb. Not so.
No,
This is the greatest weapon. And yeah, you can say that it's HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, once you find out what it's capable of doing. But it's basically the secret space program in toto that is really the weapon system that yes, Tesla envisioned it. I think he did not want to do it, and he definitely withdrew, particularly when Edward Teller came on board. And all of the, like the Montauk Project that they've tried to convince us is a conspiracy theory. Not so. It was real. And some very bigwigs who were Manhattan Project bigwigs were involved in that because that had to do with magnetism, and that has to do with geomagnetism. And once you're involved in looking at all these things, and remember, I did not get a degree in physics.
yeah,
I had to self-teach myself everything. And I was reading, reading, reading. Because I also was, the best thing though, is that I'd been working for years on a series of books called Sub Rosa America, A Deep State History. And I therefore had been doing research nonstop pretty much for 40 years. And I had tons of notes and I had tons of articles. And I was on a track where I have that kind of mind where I'm open to just about anything. And then I start considering it, and then I notice that my mind is going this way. And so I always follow my mind because it knows a lot more than I think I do.
for
And
sure.
and I began to understand what had really happened in this country. So, it's really funny how, to me, that's the divine world, because I'm a Rudolf Steiner student. I've studied Steiner ideas for 45, 50 years. And I find the intelligence of it, because you're not leaving out the spirit. That's the problem with Western scientism, is they do not want anyone touching the other side of reality. They want people to think it's all about stuff and it's all about things. And it isn't. If you have the spiritual active in you, you have an intelligence that is 5, 10 times greater than any PhD out of MIT, because you're now operating with a full deck. You've got both sides. I mean, that's really the way Newton was. If you read about Newton, and I did a lot of reading on Newton, because I came across a prayer that he carried in his vest pocket until the day he died. And the prayer was basically, um, lead me to see the divinity of this world. And he became like the very kingpin of Western science for a long time, when really he was not that. He was a spiritual type.
Wow.
Uh, and that's of course what we saw in Oppenheimer when he had given his devil's agreement to what was done in White Sands in 45. He realized what he had done, and he began to recite from the Bhagavad Gita, and to realize that it's an offense against the divinity of this world to do this kind of science. And that's really, if there's anything that keeps my engines running, it's the spiritual side of me,
Yeah.
which feels that, yeah, okay, so I'm not going to save anyone from this stuff. I'm not going to be able to bring it down, and and we'll return to a wonderful world. And I'm not going to be able to convert everybody, but I want to give people the opportunity to be able to go into some of this learning and realize the reality of it. I have a sort of prayer of my own. Lord, don't let me die with lies in my soul. And I want the truth. I so much want the truth. I don't care if it hurts.
Me
I don't
neither.
care if it's a disappointment. I don't care if it's that someone I love is doing that. I must know. And then I can do something. I can act. I have my will. I have the inner life. I have tremendous power. I mean, do you realize how what kind of help I'm getting from that spiritual world that really exists? That's how this place works. That's why I never have a moment when I lose hope or faith,
You can't.
because I know how it goes. Yeah. And I invite people, join me in that. I mean, in these books, I'm not giving sermons or anything, but you read these books and you see that you're reading someone who writes differently from academic books, for example.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely.
yes.
Definitely. And I was, when I was first diving into your work, I was, of course, reading the Bible somewhat in tandem with some of the things I was reading in your book. And I'm just like, it almost made the comprehension of your writing that much more palatable. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, it is funny, isn't it? Because I have a wonderful intellect. My father was a genius. By the way, my father was Navy intelligence.
Wow.
Did I know that as a child? No, I did not. I learned that when I was 60 years old
Wow.
and was trying to get Navy brat insurance when I got back from living in Europe or England. And the woman who went to check when he was discharged came back in like 15 minutes and said, well, I found his records, but did you know he was Navy and Naval Intelligence? He was a scientist. He was an inorganic chemist,
Wow.
very brilliant. And they'd been using him all through the war and after the war. He went on a lot of trips when I was in high school. Nobody quite knew where he went, but he always had a story. And she said, uh, you know, we can't determine when he was discharged, but and I said, yeah, wow, Navy intelligence. Well, and then it all made sense why I was digging so hard for the truth about MK Ultra, about all sorts of stuff. I wanted to know what that Cold War had done to the man who was not a good father to me at all,
Sure.
a man who had been completely taken over by his programming and whatever had happened to him. So I wanted to know the truth, and
That,
and
that's what
that's
will push somebody to do that.
isn't that amazing that life would open that up for me? That yeah, that's what I want to know. I want to know this stuff because
Well,
I could have done a lot of other things.
it's almost like, I mean, I'm someone who's relatively religious and spiritual, and uh, it's almost like there's a redemptive purpose for our shortcomings and our traumas and our things that we suffer through. I can speak to that in my own life, and I won't get too deep into the details, but there's been things in my life where especially as a young 20-year-old, you look at it and you're wondering, God, why did you let me experience? Actually, take the subject for example. Actually, take the subject for example. God, how could you let this happen? How could you let the planet be geoengineered at a scale, where I'm seeing chemtrails over my childhood home, for example, right? And that just might seem silly or whatever, but you almost resent the knowledge to a certain point. But then over time, I have come to discover that it was learning these things is the greatest gift and freedom that God's ever given me, because now I have the opportunity to do something and fight for it and fight for a good cause. So to speak to that, I thought I should add because I
Uh,
know exactly what you mean.
and it logarithmically adds power. When you sacrifice to know the truth. That's something I've learned. It's not just that you now have more will, more power. You can you can do more things because you know the truth. No, it actually is a force in itself. And that's pretty amazing that the truth, it's like the liars that, like in the clown show, uh, they're entrapping the truth in lies. And then you come along and, just in your small way, you don't live that. You don't do that.
That's right.
You are therefore releasing the truth for its freedom that it needs to have for our evolution, for the human evolution. And that's really what's going on with me now, Paul, is I am I am now convinced that the transhumanism that both of these books, the last two books, have in the title and are basically obsessed with throughout the book. This transhumanism is may actually spell the end of Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
Know
Yeah.
that, and certainly the jab of the last several years, those jabs,
Yeah.
the pharmacology that has gone into those jabs is on a scale of black magic, and I'm deadly serious. Alchemy, if you study the first chemistry that we had, well, it would have in the West, it would have been alchemy. But alchemy had the divine still involved in it. The chemist or the alchemist would make sure he checked the planets to see what positions they were in because of the raying down of the forces of those different planets and planetary systems, and in order to do his experiments.
Sure.
So we have occult believers. No matter what you think of the occult, a lot of people think all the occult is bad. I am not one of those people. I know there's the good occultists and there's the bad occultists.
Yes.
And Rudolf Steiner is certainly one of the good occultists. And he's taught me a lot about how to fight this war, if I want to think of it that way, or this full court press that I'm involved in, where I have no personal life. I'm not interested in anything or anyone particularly who isn't involved in what I'm pushing for here, because there's a great prize at the end if I if
I know your pain with that. I will say I know you I share that sentiment to a certain degree.
yes, I am pushing for the prize, which is that we will have a Homo sapiens still, even if it's a remnant, I want it to be substantial. So all my forces are involved in that, and I'm not worried about what's happening out here. Of oh, somebody said this about you, or this show host isn't going to invite you because you're persona non gratis, or all of that stuff seems so petty to me. Just seems so petty when you're actually fighting for this wonderful species you and I are members of, that is engaged in an evolution of consciousness that basically will think with the heart when we have really succeeded. You will not no longer think with the brain, you will think with the heart. And so there are so many reasons. And Rudolf Steiner is the one who kind of cleared the ground for me to be able to see what was going on here and why there was such resistance to the good, the true, and the beautiful. I mean, gosh, the things that I dearly love, and as a teacher, that I'm engulfed in, and that I changed students' lives when I used to be teaching, because I I serve that. That is what I serve. And like Bobby Dylan, the poet of my generation, said, "Everybody got to serve somebody." Of
Right?
course, that was his Christian phase,
Sure.
which He subsequently left and made a deal with the devil. He talks about that in one of his interviews. It's unfortunate, but he
Yeah,
admitted it, and
yeah,
there it is.
yeah.
So, life is not easy here to make all these
A
choices.
lot of different opportunities for temptation. People get pulled in different directions, especially the higher you climb, which there's almost a certain level of safety and actually beauty and just being a humble servant in writing. And like what you're describing, people not wanting to bring you on the show. Well, thank God they didn't want to bring you on the show.
Well, and it's to live the anonymous life. I
Yes.
know a few people who, uh, well, anyway, I think they were some in reincarnation. I think they were some heavy duties. But in this life, we're all anonymous, and it gives you such freedom
Yeah.
to be able to work on a deep scale and write what must be written instead of trying to please somebody, or you've got a career to protect, or you'll be threatened with death and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's the long answer to your original
Yeah.
question.
Well, hey, I think it's great because I mean I want to give people an idea of who you are, and I think what you just long answer is fine. It's not a simple answer to that question, but you started to touch on the subject of transhumanism and geoengineering, and those two phrases alone, I think a lot of folks. Maybe some of the folks out there that'll be viewing this, they don't know what either of them mean. So the idea of a geoengineered transhumanism, that's like totally way beyond their scope of understanding. So I would love to just get into those topics a little bit, those words, and what they mean, and yeah, definitely.
If we can get my PowerPoint up, and I'll just whip through some pictures to help people understand what the geoengineering is really up to. And Lockheed Martin calls the space fence, and I call the space fence lockdown. All right. Yeah. Um, we're just speeding through space. It's not the Copernican model where we're just going heliocentric. We're not going just around the sun. We're actually moving in a toroid, moving like a corkscrew, 70,000 kilometers per hour. And, it's important to remember this as we get so wrapped up in our little lives. So each planet is making its circuit, and the sun is sort of driving us or dragging us through the ecliptic. And the ecliptic is something we don't learn in school. That's too bad. But the ecliptic is a very large circuit of about 25,000, 26,000 years. And it has to do with our development, according to some of the good occultists. So that's our condition. So let's just that's all we need there. Okay, so that's what that is. Okay, so here's some of the clouds that they're producing. These are not clouds of water vapor, ice crystals, and particulates. These are chemical clouds. And we know that because there's all sorts of signatures that chemists who train themselves in this aeronautics type of chemistry recognize. So notice the ragged edges along the periphery, and,
Yes.
and notice the vertical lines that are there. That's a pulse. That's some pulse coming in. Boom, 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 pulsing it. So you learn to read the clouds because I don't think we have any natural clouds, at least over the United States. We don't have any. I have never seen a cloud I would say was natural.
Well, it goes back to what Lyndon Baines Johnson said in 1962 is the talking about controlling the world's cloud layer, and he who will control the weather will control the world. So in the United States, that's I would totally agree with you. I think there's a ultimately a giant cloud layer that they do have control over.
Absolutely. And when I go up in a jet, which I try to do as little as possible because of the radiation that's up there now, I I've counted as many as 7 layers.
Wow.
So there are a lot of layers up there. And in fact, here in the Pacific Northwest where I live, they are creating weather for the entire continental United States off the coast, about 200 miles from me, that they will then attach to the jet stream, which is parked over Vancouver, British Columbia, or Vancouver Island, actually, and then they will take that east and create tornadoes and storms and droughts and whatever. But to realize that it's all controlled now by AI systems, yes, with human operators coming in and out. Okay, then this is important to know because some people think, oh, it's a clear day,
Yeah.
Elon. And this is a patent for a device we now have, which you should know about.
An aircraft comprising a gas turbine engine that exhausts a plume of gases in use. The aircraft comprises an ultrasound generator having an ultrasound actuator and a waveguide to direct ultrasonic waves at the exhaust plume to avoid the formation of contrails.
Okay, so when
Wow.
you have a so-called clear day and you don't see any so-called contrails, uh, that's not necessarily true. They're using ultrasound. Okay, that's another one. Okay, this is how we live, and we can't see it because our little part of the electromagnetic spectrum doesn't make all these visible to us, but we are definitely plugged into it in the sense of breathing it. So it's breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and and it's affecting our bodies, our brains, our skin, etc. So let's be under no illusion now. I say here inside our Tesla dome, yeah, in a way, we are living, the atmosphere itself is now sort of a dome. It's got a chemical brew in it that is constantly being adjusted. It's the frequencies are being adjusted, the directionality is being adjusted. All of this is going on under the space fence Tesla dome. This is kind of neat. Now, we all hopefully know the name of Sabrina Wallace. She is an MK Ultra survivor on the internet now. She has her own show, her own channels. She's a brilliant. She was programmed back when she was a little girl. Her parents were involved in the same kind of programming. And she's trying to teach us about our actual electromagnetic reality that we can't see. Because we're living in a time where you are not going to be able to see it necessarily. You can train your eyes to see aspects of it so that you know it, that say a certain frequency is present, but you really can't visually see these things. And so she's training us. That's her name is Sabrina Wallace. Make sure you see her. But here
Sure.
you can see that the Wi-Fi has the capability to see the light in our bodies. That's what you're seeing on the right with the sort of green texture of these people's bodies. That's our light. We have biophotons in us. We are beings of light that we also can't see, but the
Wow.
Wi-Fi can. And WBAN is a term she uses a lot, wireless body area network. We are being used as a network for weapons, for things that are being weaponized. That's why it's hard for me now to talk about direct energy weapons because even the Internet of Things can be used as a weapon. Even
Wow.
your washing machine can be used as a weapon. Even the 60 hertz in your walls can be used as a weapon. So it's gone considerably further than when we used to think of, like a Star Wars ray gun kind of thing.
Sure.
Okay, so that, okay. And then this is just a gobbledygook kind of little graphic. You see the satellite up in the right corner, then you've got you see straight down, you see the evil cell phone that I keep telling people to get rid of because it's a weapon system. And then you see the internet, and you see the tower, the WMAX, and the computer, and then there's you, your body. You've got all kinds of things that are hooked up to you wirelessly through energy means that are around you and in you. And the in you is the probably the newest part of understanding our condition for being plugged into the space fence lockdown that I talk about. Uh, but you see how all this through the cell phone, now you've got the medical people, the telemedicine folks, precision medicine people can read all your biometrics whenever they want to, can read your thoughts, can read your, well, anything. And then there's video games are all fixed up for mind control. If your kid is on a video game, it's not a good idea. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
all of
Yeah.
that is going on, and this is we have to get to the point where we want to understand what we can't see. It's crucial. Here's what's going on above us with the space-based infrared system that Lockheed Martin loves to crow about as being so brilliant. And you've got satellites up there. You've got those. You got ground stations down here on the Earth, and there's constant commerce between these and constant communications. Leo is a low Earth orbit, and there are lots of satellites. We know Elon Musk has sent up thousands and thousands of the
Yeah,
CubeSat. So that's sort of our condition. I just want you to get more of a picture of you're not just looking at air here, like, oh, it's just air. No
sure.
problem. It is not just air. So let's wake up and smell the coffee here. This is Lockheed Martin. I'll just play a little bit to show you how full of themselves they are.
Absolutely.
Uh, they're number one for weapons.
Space is no longer a vast, empty void. Unprecedented quantities of new satellites, derelict satellites, and debris litter the skies, posing an imminent threat to America's space assets. Lockheed Martin's Space Fence System is a ground-based system of S-band radars designed to greatly enhance the Air Force space surveillance network. It provides unprecedented sensitivity, coverage, and tracking accuracy, and contributes to key mission threads with the ability to detect, track, and catalog small objects in low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, and geosynchronous orbit. In a word, Space Fence will revolutionize space situational awareness. It offers assured surveillance coverage for improved custody and features the capability to develop long arc tracks for accurate initial orbit determination and differential correction.
So planetary, even though you look up and see chemtrails or sort of a baby blue color, uh, there is a lot going on up there in the upper atmosphere. And I don't
Wow.
say space because truthfully, we humans have not been to space yet, unless the exotic propulsion craft shaped something like saucers are capable of doing more than I think they are so far. And that's a whole other story that's important, but we'll get to that a bit in a minute, in a few minutes. Okay, so we control the jet stream. Uh, I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, we were happy to hear that somehow we got the jet stream to show up down over Texas. Gee whiz, how did that happen? And this now this has to do with resonance. So this is important. I have the name of the little film. It's for free on the internet. Resonance, Beings of Frequency. I think it's a very important film to see. It's easy going, and in it is this one clip about the Schumann resonance, and the Schumann resonance is the heartbeat, the brain beat, the heartbeat of the planet Earth, and the brain beat of us. And so let's see how this went. And because it's about a teacher, it sounds like it was a great teacher. I would love to have had him for a teacher.
An unknown scientist is about to make a discovery that should have changed everything. His name was Winifred Otto Schumann. On the day in question, he was teaching his students about the physics of electricity, how a sphere within a sphere can create electrical tension, and subsequently, a frequency. Schumann's class had struggled to understand the subject, so to make it easier, the professor instructed them to imagine the Earth as one sphere and the ionosphere as another. He then asked them to calculate the tension that would exist in between. Having no idea himself, Schumann also began to calculate. Eventually, he arrived at a frequency of approximately 10 hertz. As incredible as it seemed to Schumann, our planet had a pulse, a measurable frequency that surrounded life on Earth. Although the professor was proud of his find, he didn't see it as a hugely significant one, especially as it was only published in a small science journal, confined to the back pages, under the heading of Schumann resonance. It would take several years, and an incredible twist of fate, before the professor would begin to realize the true importance of Schumann resonance. That twist of fate had begun 30 years earlier, with another German scientist by the name of Hans Berger. Using an EEG machine he had built himself, Berger had made the first ever recording of electrical frequency transmitted by the human brain. It was initially suggested the wave be named after the man who discovered it, but Berger, being a modest man, elected for an alphabetical name and called it the alpha wave. Shortly after Professor Schumann's discovery, one of Hans Berger's colleagues, a man named Dr. Ankermüller, happened to stumble upon a bedraggled copy of a small scientific journal. The exact same small scientific journal that Professor Schumann's discovery had been published in several years before. He read the piece several times, shaking his head in disbelief. He realized instantly the magnitude of what was in front of him. The frequency of the alpha waves, recorded by Hans Berger, were almost identical to Schumann resonance. The frequency of the Earth. Dr. Ankermüller immediately contacted Schumann to convince him to investigate further. Schumann agreed and worked alongside one of his students to refine his discovery. They studied in detail how tension is discharged by lightning in the Earth ionosphere cavity. Eventually, they came up with an exact frequency. The pulse of the Earth, Schumann resonance, was exactly 7.83 hertz. The discovery was remarkable. Schumann resonance wasn't just similar to the alpha waves of the human brain, it was identical. The brain's frequency, which controlled our creativity, our performance, our stress, anxiety, and our immune system, had somehow tuned in to the frequency of the planet. The pulse of the Earth had become the pulse of life.
So this is profound, needless to say, but it might take us a couple of minutes to really kind of grok, a wonderful word, how important it is to say that the pulse of the earth, the natural pulse of the earth, is the same exact frequency as the human brain. What does that say to you? What does that say, that we are just a higher ape here? Does that say it's just a coincidence that they're the same? Uh, no, I don't think so. I think it infers that we have something to do, we humans have something to do with the consciousness of the earth. Now, I don't think I'm reaching here. I think
No.
it's entirely obvious. But let me tell you what, unfortunately, HARP is doing. Let me see what's next. Okay, so here's a good look at when resonance is happening, or when a pulse is happening and being inserted into the atmosphere, and then creates these serrations, and that always occurs, by the way, before an earthquake. And it's generally because it's being geoengineered.
Wow.
So let me get down here. Okay, I just threw this in there. I'm going to get back to this. Let me just go here. No, I don't want to go that far. All right, then I'll just tell you from the resonance. What's happening is Hertz, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, the HARP, is producing artificial ELF propagation of 4 Hertz multiples. And how long has this been going on? For at least 20 years.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just ELF is extremely low frequency.
Yes.
Okay.
Propagation in 4 Hertz multiples. So again and again and again, just pulsing into the what some call the Schumann well, which is sort of a resonant chamber around the Earth between the ionosphere and the Earth. And the ionosphere starts at about 24 or 25 miles up and continues for another 25 or 30 miles before it then becomes involved with the magnetosphere. So, all right. The HARP system is obviously pulsing the planet with 4 hertz to create cyclotronic resonance that impacts our endocrine system and the biologically important ions of sodium, calcium, potassium, and lithium. Now, why would they do that? Why would they be interested in our endocrine system? Can you see how a common background pulse of 4 hertz, no longer the Schumann resonance of 11.83 hertz? No, they're messing with that all the time. Normally, when I check it, if indeed I'm getting the truth, and I'm not even sure of that, it reads around 13, 13 and a half. The resonance of our living planet and brain, we're being forced into a hive mind. That's what's going on. By doing 4 hertz, what will our brain end up being? Well, when you look at all the MK Ultra literature, you find that they have discerned what happens in the various frequencies that the brain produces. And 4 hertz is between delta waves, which are sleep waves. That's the waves we produce when we're asleep, particularly in the REM sleep. And it's between delta waves and theta waves. And theta waves are what we produce when we're relaxed
Okay.
and mellow. So what it looks like is they really don't want us to think very much.
Interesting.
They being the geoengineers who are under mandates from where? Well, definitely Bill Gates type foundations, definitely them. elites, maybe from, various bloodlines in Europe. I mean, that's still going on.
Of course it is.
Thousands of years now, if not millions. And so we're being forced into a hive mind. Do you see evidence of that?
Absolutely, I do.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. So for those of us who are not in the hive mind, though I admit I'm in the hive mind when I'm out on the freeway, because I am on automatic when I'm driving that car. I am as robotic as you can possibly imagine. It's amazing that there aren't more accidents.
Yes, it
It's as
is.
we're we're on a robot frequency, and then suddenly there's something that happens ahead of us, and right away we jerk too. So fortunately, we have that, and that's no doubt one of our
Well,
ancient
it'll
survival.
be it'll be great when everybody just has the brain chip in and they're just riding in their car, Elon Musk Tesla, and you don't even have to drive it yourself. You just connected to it automatically, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's like we laugh, but it's a dark laugh.
I laugh because because I know how it is a very dark laugh. It's a very facetious ha ha ha, but it's not really that funny.
Well, we have to laugh. I'm so
Yeah,
glad we can laugh because otherwise, how are we going to make it?
I agree.
Uh, okay, there's that. We saw that. Okay, remote neural monitoring. I bring up that term RNM. It's uh, what was Robert's like? Oh dear, I've forgotten his last name again. Robert, an MK Ultra guy and targeted, and he recently died. He wrote a book called The Matrix Deciphered. Oh, Robert Duncan. Yeah, Robert Duncan. He was trained to work on the brain and mind control programs of NASA, et cetera, of uh, all the different agencies that are devoted to unpacking the brain so they can control it. And and then he worked on a couple of projects, compartmentalized, of course. And then they turned the what he had produced onto him and targeted him the rest of his life.
So I was actually going to ask you that. How many of these people in MK Ultra are them themselves that have been MK Ultra? And this is probably opening up a whole can of worms. And I don't want to veer too far off topic, but
Yeah,
you've described it to me, and it's like almost like it's almost like the self-replicating thing where they've become MK Ultra'd, they start working, or they've been tested on an experiment on themselves, and then they go on in life to replicate and advance that technology that they themselves have been tested on. Am I incorrect on that?
yeah. And I think that not everyone who is a survivor of MK Ultra will stand the test in order to become one of those people, but they definitely are looking for that type of mind. And at the same time,
Wow.
say that autism is being purposely created, particularly in males' minds, and in order to create people who will be easy for AI to control,
That makes
and
sense.
who, some of the targeted individuals that I've been in touch with, I do think that they are being prepped to become teachers and tutors and handlers of people who are being targeted and with mind control. So it's pretty ugly, and because it's silent, because it's unknown, and because the means by which you produce it, like from satellite, I mean, who can believe that?
Nobody.
These satellite leashes are down here. That was one reason I was glad that they brought up what is happening to the vaxxed people, the inoculated people, that they are on these Bluetooth leashes that are just not a real leash, not like a dog leash, but an electromagnetic leash leading straight to the satellites that went up 3 weeks in advance from Elon Musk, I might add. Uh,
Ugh.
of the beginning of the jabs that happened back in 2020. So all these people who are the billions, this is billions of people, are being logged via satellite with these electromagnetic leashes. They're not walking around as free agents, believe me. They have with that electromagnetic connection with the satellites, they can create an electromagnetic field around that person so that then people that come into that field experience shedding. And the shedding is not about virus, but there are no virus unless they are gain of function, and that would be taking a bacteria or a protein and doing things to it in order to weaponize it, and then calling that a virus. That's the only virus I will admit possibly exists,
I
are
agree
the
with you on that.
gain of function. So these people are now, all their vitals are being read. This is how mind control is done. A remote neural monitoring, RNM, is pretty much the same way, except it's a little more imaginative in that they can also use blasts of plasma, and these plasma orbs that everybody is so confused over. These plasma orbs are used for mind control and can be sent into someone's living quarters, and then the plasma will connect to the plasma we have in our bodies, and they can run that person. So this is it's complex. It's got a variety of uh, task-oriented ways to control people, and they are all the while studying the human being because they definitely want to be as gods on this planet and run all of life and develop other forms of life that are really inorganic. They have actually I was looking at a patent recently called inorganic life forms. So that's what synthetic biology is really all about.
Wow.
Okay, so no virus, just frequencies resonating throughout the atmosphere in our bodies and brains. Natural molecular biology has been transformed into digital synthetic biology, whose frequencies can now be transmitted by 5G, 6G systems into the human body and brain. This has tremendous repercussions for those of us who wish to remain human. Wean yourselves from allopathic medicine and the big pharma cartel. Then I just, this is just a little bit of stuff, and I can't go into detail, and really it's over my pay grade, very much
Okay.
so. But this is important to know that we have moved from Einstein to Tesla. I'll be speaking, by the way, in August at Tesla Tech conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So, I'm very happy to report that one of my books, I think it was the first one, Chemtrails HARP, was translated into Serbian, which is where Mr. Tesla was from.
Wow.
And it is in the technical colleges all throughout the nation. Yes, it is, because I'm the only person studying how the West has taken Tesla's technology and weaponized it. So here you see the theory of general relativity. Ether does not exist, vacuum is empty. You can go into that. The ether used to exist. They banned it in science in the West in the 1920s. You can pick up that story that is just as good as a deep detective story in my book, Under an Ionized Sky. I talk about that in one of the chapters. Gravity is due to the curvature of space, not true. Speed of light is constant, not true. So the real physics, or the Tesla physics, ether is the basic brick of the universe. Yes, it is. And from it, plasma is formed by an electromagnetic event that happens in space. particles are made of ether vortex, and believe it or not, I think that's really what an atom is it's actually an ether vortex of particles, including the electrons. Very interesting. Light is a wave in the ether. Energy is ether movement or pressure. Gravity is an accelerated wind of ether. How about that? And speed of light is variable, like in any fluid. So we've been lied to quite a bit, and they're still teaching this stuff, the Einsteinian stuff in graduate schools. Now this ran in 2017. What was that glowing orb Trump touched in Saudi Arabia? This was in the New York Times. It was obviously important enough to the New York Times to publish it. And that was Trump's first round as a president. Notice his wife is standing right by him. She's a very enigmatic figure in his life. And then we have these Saudi princes. Now compare that with this. This just came out. This is from January 22nd, 2025, when Mr. Trump stands up there at the podium and announces Project Stargate AI. Beside him are Masayoshi Son, CEO of Stargate LLC, Larry Ellison, the Oracle founder of Oracle, and Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. Now this, I maintain this is a Freemason picture. This is so Freemason that I can't help but think they set it up to look like this. Okay, so you have Trump, who's Hiram Abiff. That's the
Yes.
head dude in Freemasonry, who's not alive. And then you have the three apprentices beside him. And so what are they doing? Well, they're bringing back Stargate, and you probably don't know Stargate. Wait, what did I do? Did I do something here? So let's read about Stargate. This is just from CBS News. What is Stargate? Trump's ambitious AI infrastructure venture. Stargate investment will be directed toward, get that out of the way, toward constructing data centers to support AI development. Already there are data centers under construction in Texas, with the first one located in Abilene, Oracle's Ellison said at the press conference. The goal is to construct 10 data centers initially, with plans to expand to 20 locations of about 500,000 square feet each. The data centers will be used by OpenAI. Ellison highlighted AI's ability to transform, healthcare. Saying that the tools provided by OpenAI and SoftBank are helping to develop a cancer vaccine.
Wow. Oh, geez.
It's like you just can't make this stuff up. You can do early cancer detection with a blood test, and using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancer that is seriously threatening the person, said the medical expert Ellison.
Yeah.
Once we gene sequence that gene tumor, you can vaccinate the person against that cancer, and you can make that mRNA vaccine robotically using AI within 48 hours. Oh, God. Elon Musk also has a public feud going with OpenAI and Sam Altman, alleging in a lawsuit last year that the company and its CEO violated OpenAI's original mission statement by putting profits over benefiting humanity. After helping found OpenAI in 2015, Musk broke with the company, claiming that the AI firm had veered away from its founding agreement, that it would use its technology to benefit the public, and that it would open its technology for public use. Now, am I in some crazy wonderland? I mean, does Elon Musk actually believe that this kind of technology is going to help humanity.
He does. I think he does believe it.
Yeah, and I think that's a sign of his MK Ultra programming from his childhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I'm often asked about him because everybody's rather fond of him, because there's something good in him, but he seems to have been taken on some sort of a terrible astral joyride or something.
Well, and the same question I would have is about Donald Trump himself.
Oh, yeah, him I'm already sure of. He's definitely captured us.
What makes you say that?
Well, I've been watching him closely for quite a few years now, and it's very hard to be a billionaire, first of all. And he was very close friends with John F. Kennedy Jr.
Yep.
And uh, and then, I saw his mother, who looks like a practicing Satanist. No, not Trump. Sorry, that's
Elon's mother.
but with Trump, I don't think there's any way he can win this for all good. I think it's going to be, he's a businessman, he's going to compromise, he's going to find his way through this labyrinth of control that he was chosen for to go through. And by being chosen, he made certain agreements that he has to abide by.
Yeah.
But right now, he's having fun in that he's delivering quite a bit of what he promised to the American people as far as cleaning things up after this 4 years that were handed over to the clowns.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's one thing I know from reading Rudolf Steiner. He's a tremendous student of history, and he has many history books. You can read them; they're in massive detail. He has a technique called, which I dearly love, called historical symptomatology. And in that approach to history, he's not looking at who won what war and who's king and all that stuff. He's looking at the primaries who were involved in setting up the war, in conducting the war, and then coming out of the war to change the society they created the war to change in the first place. So he's really looking at human behavior, and because he's very familiar with the secret societies that everybody leaves out in America, sadly, because this country is run by Freemasons. There's no question.
Of course.
And there are the Catholic ones too, the Knights of whatever.
Templar.
Huh?
Knights of Templar.
Not the Templar, not the Templar.
Oh,
No,
Knights of Columbus.
no, not the Knights of Columbus, but that's a good local social one. No, it's another. I'll have to think about it. Okay, so now I'm having trouble getting out of this. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Harp's control over the. Okay, now we can really whip through this fast. Okay, there's the famous harp,
Yes.
the greatest acronym ever, right there at the in the at the feet of a magnificent mountain. I think it's Mount Rainier, right? I don't know what the Indian name of that one is.
I was going to say Denali, but I don't know the answer.
No, I don't know. This is important for everyone to hear just once in your life, because we now control, we being NATO, the United States, however you want to look at it,
Sure.
control the ionosphere completely, 100%. And this happened by 2014. And that's what we have here is they're meeting at the Alaska Senate Committee about HARP. The disinformation that they're promulgating here is that they're going to shut HARP down now that they've found out a few cool things from HARP. And University of Alaska at Fairbanks will run it and rent it out on weekends to people that want to do their science experiments. It's just nonsense. It's one of the most powerful weapons in the world, and they definitely don't want people to know that. They don't want people to think of 9/11 and HARP in the same breath, which
I know that.
I certainly do. And so here is the proof, right? So this is true, not a rumor, they control the ionosphere.
Chairman, and thank you to all of you this morning. Very interesting. I wanted to ask a couple questions here about HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Several of you at the table have a little bit of a piece here. As you know, this is located up in Alaska. It's currently funded by the Air Force Research Lab. It was formerly funded by the Office of Naval Research. One of the prime customers is DARPA, which is currently running experiments at the facilities here. So questions to several of you this morning. I'm told by the president of the University of Alaska that the Air Force has pulled its support for the facility, and they're taking steps to demolish it or take it down this summer. He's making the argument that there is other opportunities for us, and is trying to find a path where the university might be able to take title to the facility. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Prabhakar. I understand that a lot of folks here on the committee probably don't understand what HARP does. I think most Alaskans don't really know what HARP does or why the agency is involved in it. So a very brief explanation, and then a more direct question. Would you be disappointed, or would you lose something if HARP were to go away?
Senator Murkowski, as I think you know, one of our programs has been using the HARP facility for the research that it's pursuing. And my understanding is that we did get value out of that interaction. The P in DARPA is projects, and we're not in the business of doing the same thing forever. So it's very naturally, as we conclude that work, we're going to move on to other topics. So it's not an ongoing need for DARPA, despite the fact that we had actually gotten some good value out of that infrastructure in the past.
Understood. Then to Dr. Walker and Mr. Schaefer, then, Dr. Walker, your agency is currently running the facility. I've mentioned that it's our understanding through the president of UAF that the plans are to move forward and demolish the facility this summer. So the question to you is that accurate? Can you explain why? And then perhaps to both you and Mr. Schaefer, is there any benefit in exploring a potential relationship with the University of Alaska to perhaps take over the HARP?
Thank you, Senator. The Air Force has gotten great value out of HARP in the past. We took over from the Navy and managed it, and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there, and have finished our work that we're interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere, be able to actually control it. And but that work has been completed.
There you go. You heard the horse's mouth.
Right there. How funny is that? He just came out and said it.
Yep, there it is. So that, and the control of the ionosphere, to people who don't know, first of all, that would sew up the weather question. You can create amazing weather by controlling the ionosphere, because you can take ions from the ionosphere. You can bring them down into our atmosphere for activation and continued activation of all of our wireless operations. But you can also divert tremendous energy to the ionosphere with your trigonometry angles, and produce earthquakes in Fukushima. You could do 9/11. There are many things you can do because you have that amazing pool of energy at your beck and call. So that's why I say, they're worried about the atomic bomb. Well, one of the problems with the atomic bomb has always been it destroys too much material, and that's materiel. That's military stuff. It destroys too much. This you can get it right down to a T. of what kind of destruction you want and what kind of level. And you saw that at 9/11, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
well,
the book to
I
read is Judy Wood's book, Where Did the Towers Go? If you haven't read that book and you don't own a copy, you're missing out on one of the best texts. She never says it was HARP, by the way. That is not something she says. She's a scientist who takes it as far as she can take it. And in there, she talks about various scientific approaches that could definitely account for what happened on 9/11.
Well, and not only that, I think I've mentioned this before, but people seem to forget that there was a giant storm system that was placed or sitting off the coast. I believe it was a hurricane sitting off the coast of New York City, which had clear skies on 9/11. So I've definitely I haven't read that book, but I have heard. I think you've written about it in one of the books that I've read of yours,
Yes.
and that's always one that I steer from because it just I mean first of all start with the idea that that happened by the fault of the United States government. You know, people don't even want to talk about that. And then if you start talking about, well, hey, maybe it was some sort of directed energy or some form of frequency weapon that was used to make that happen, people just are like, what are you even talking about? But I think that raises the most significant question of, well, who did 9/11? Who actually did do 9/11? And if it's true that there was a super sophisticated technology used to do it, who has access to that technology?
Well, I think that actually it was a showcase for that technology because Mr. Silverstein, who had just purchased those buildings and had a high insurance policy on both of them, that had just happened.
Yeah, that's right.
So so it would I like Judy's book particularly because of the endless photos, and to really contemplate the level of destruction. We're not talking about just destruction, we're talking about magnetic disintegration of bodies and stuff. So, no, I think it's a great book. I've had mine rebound because the binding on these books is really not very good. So, very important book. Okay, so now you've heard it for the harp thing. And then this is how the weapon would work. If you were, for example, with 9/11, you would have to have because this is a type of weaponry called interferometry, I think is what they call it. It's using an interference zone made by two beams crossing over and creating an interference zone right over the target area. And then you just blast them with the energy that is not the normal electromagnetic energy. And the I'm going to get to that in shortly, but that's how it is. If you were doing a hologram, say you wanted to do a hologram, like have the Virgin Mary and Jesus up in the sky or something, you would need three of those in order to have that kind of dimensionality. You would need three. And what we normally, I think that with 9/11, I would vote that it was HARP up in Alaska, and then Brookhaven National Labs. They have a HARP there out on Long Island. So that would be my guess, would have been those two who have that kind of power. HARP is extraordinarily powerful. And then there's another one in Norway, Tromsø. That's a huge one as well. Now China has one that is quite extraordinary. I don't know if it's done. I haven't checked on it in the last few years. So that's the new action at a distance. That's how you can do it. That's how you can do it. The ability, and here's the real queen of or mother, whatever you said that they call me.
Matriarch.
Matriarch. Yeah, this is the real matriarch, Rosalie Bertell. She died in 2012. An epidemiologist specializing in ionized radiation, author of the very first book about the same stuff I write about, Planet Earth, the latest weapon of war, a critical study into the military and the environment. Wonderful book. Rosalie Bertell she was a gray nun. She was absolutely dedicated, a brilliant woman. And she said here, the ability of the HARP combination to deliver very large amounts of energy comparable to a nuclear bomb anywhere on Earth via laser and particle beams is frightening. Yeah.
Wow.
She had it.
So she was really the original matriarch if she was talking about that. That's pretty cool.
I would say she was. And in fact, her book that I named, a second edition has come out very recently, and it would be well worth reading.
Okay.
All right, so this is the patent for the ring around the planet at the equator that they have built. And they have no doubt built it in part from the chemtrails that are delivering heavy metals. We all know about the heavy metals. We're all supposed to be doing metal detox, every month, if not every week, because that's how much metal we're breathing in. But there you can see that they have built one, and they describe it interestingly, method for modifying environmental conditions with ring comprised of magnetic material. Well, the other thing that came out not long, see, this was only in 2016. That's not all that long ago. This came out in 2017.
Scientists have discovered a human-made barrier around Earth, protecting against the natural particle radiation in space. They believe the bubble was formed by very low-frequency waves, or VLFs. VLFs have been found to interact with the particles in space, affecting how and where they move. VLFs are used for radio communications, including with submarines, because they can penetrate deep into the ocean. The waves can also travel far into the environment around Earth. By understanding more about how VLF transmissions help shape our space environment, we learn more about this complex region surrounding us. The more we know, the more situational awareness we have to protect our satellites from natural radiation in space.
So you heard that term when I played the little bit of the Lockheed Martin space fence video. They used that term situational space awareness. And that's a crucial, just remember that, SSA, situational space awareness. That's what is going on here. And you can see why this is definitely, this VLF ring around the planet is following not only the patent, but is definitely involved in the space fence lockdown that we are experiencing. A lot of people even feel some of this on top of their heads, where they feel like something's pressing down on them. They're very sensitive, and it's definitely the radiation that is constantly penetrating us from all the satellites, and I believe from things like this VLF thing around the equator. So that's the only one you'll ever see. I've watched for more since 2017, but none have come out. And then this is the coup de grace is that we are now seeing, magnetite. We've always seen magnetite in the brains of animals that migrate. Little tiny, maybe not nano-sized, but definitely micron-sized bits of magnetite. But now we're finding lots of magnetite in human brains. So what's that about? Well, that's about space fence lockdown. That's about us being really contained within this magnetic, electromagnetic, but highly magnetic field. And they constantly are putting out that disinfo, fear mongering of, will the poles shift? Will the poles
Oh,
shift?
yeah.
Well, the poles will shift if the geoengineers decide to shift them. So I don't see that I have any real say-so in this at all. So I don't even think about it. But what they're trying to avoid is any questioning of why we have magnetite in our brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is I did this. It's so funny, in some of these concepts that I admit I don't know as well as I should or could yet because I lack the time is one of the reasons. In the sense of the scalar waves. The scalar waves are a big deal, but I still am all thumbs when it comes to discussing it because I don't have a feel for it yet. So I keep trying. Now I'm putting out here something that I had wrong for the presentation the other night that I gave virtually in Santa Monica, California, to the Lighthouse Church group. Uh, so let me just read through it, and as I'm reading through it, you join me in concentrating because I admit I am not there yet for the explaining or talking about scalar waves, but we must understand it because that is what HARP is. That is what is going on with the weather warfare that's going on. It has to do with the interferometry that I just explained. Uh, but in what way, how, these are the things that I am not clear on. So non-Hertzian waves or Tesla waves or scalar waves, same thing. Um, Longitudinal, now that just gives their directionality. They're longitudinal, but they can be converted to transverse. And then I name the ones that you can find, and in fact, I'll do that now. Show you this. Remember this.
Of course.
Here, down here, we have down to the left, we have the radio waves and microwaves. Then we have our little teeny weeny visible range that humans can see. And then we have from infrared on, we have X-rays and gamma rays. So that's kind of what we're explaining here. So infrared, ultraviolet, gamma differ from traditional Hertzian waves in their, I don't know, what is that word?
Potential.
In their potential to interact with matter at the quantum level. So basically, scalar waves are quantum. And that's one reason they're hard to understand because quantum operates very differently from, for example, electromagnetic. So now let's read about the electromagnetic waves. Okay, Hertzian waves are always transverse, never vertical. Familiar electromagnetic waves we know, like radio waves, microwaves, and visible light, where the electric and magnetic fields oscillate perpendicular to the direction of wave propagation. So that's one reason that if you come across someone who's in an electromagnetic field created by their Bluetooth leash to a satellite because they are uh, inoculated, that field will always be a 90-degree field. And if you get into that field or are too near it, you will have symptoms, and they vary from person to person. I had it happen with two ladies in an eyeglass shop where once one of them moved over to another position, now I was being triangulated by the two of them. Both of them, I assume, were vaxxed. And I suddenly became incredibly nauseous and thought I was going to throw up. So I backed my way very nicely out of their shop, got outside into the air, and I felt fine. So
Wow.
this is how the electromagnetic fields, and here's why, because where the electric and magnetic fields oscillate perpendicular to the direction of wave propagation. EL, extremely low frequency, very low frequency, high frequency, very high frequency, ultra high frequency, extremely high frequency. All of those are our normal waves. We're accustomed to seeing those and talking about them. The ones that are operating on different principles and are all high frequency, by the way, are the ones above. That would be from infrared to ultraviolet to the gamma rays. Okay. We need to become familiar with these things to some degree. Just
Absolutely.
little familiarity will go a long way, where you won't suddenly shut down your mind because you now are overwhelmed and think that you don't have a PhD, so you can't think this through. That's not true, but you have to concentrate in order to think things through. Okay, we saw that. Notice where the mobile phone is. These are all we now know tied to brain cancer, tied to autism, tied to Alzheimer's. We know that. What we don't know as well is what the impact of the scalar waves is on us. Now, here's more on frequency. The hertz, 1 hertz, 10 decahertz, hectohertz, kilohertz, megahertz. With the 5G, we know that one pretty well now. It's all megahertz. I'm sorry, it's gigahertz. It's all gigahertz. And then the terahertz is the 6G. Now, to answer your question that you're all asking, is the 6G up? Yes, it is. They put it up when they put the 5G up, to tell you the truth. So I don't think you'll hear from them that they've got it up. And then this is about radiation, and it really has to do with, truthfully, with flying in jets. That's where I'm concerned about all of you who travel a lot and think it's wonderful. And any radiation over 0.52 sieverts is toxic, okay? But at 37,000 feet, which is approximately the altitude you would be flying at in a passenger jet, radiation is 1.62 sieverts. That's 3 times the amount of the
Wow.
sievert that is toxic. So, a lot of people, pilots particularly, of course, and stewards and stewardesses, they're all suffering tremendously. And the name of that is is it the Wiegand effect? It's a particular effect of the radiation at altitude. So that's very important. Then since March 2020, as many as 440,000 5G satellites are up and running, including Elon Musk's CubeSats, serving the Internet of Space Things. The ultimate cyber physical system for true global connectivity based on, quote, a novel network architecture where software defined networking and network function virtualization serve as key enabling technologies. Now, this would be where your twin technology comes in. This is what this is about. And that, not just that it would be coming from satellite, but that the satellites would definitely have something to do with activating your digital twin, which eventually what they want is for that digital twin to have complete authority over you. Even if you're whether you're totally human and they've been unable to get you, or you're a hybrid human, like many of the vaccinated are no doubt will be hybrids. But this is just the first generation that they've started. There's more coming, believe me. This is good. I can't remember what this guy says, but I kind of like his rough and ready. I think he cusses too.
You've heard me talk about the 5G towers and how it's not for internet at all. It's a microwave weapon developed by the military to be used on the citizens. Take a look at this video.
They started at 9:11 at night until 9:11 in the morning. You see the pulse going from the east to the west coast. All right, boom. You see that? Those are NexRad stations. Each of those towers are 750 kilowatts, pumping out between 2.7 to 2.9 gigahertz in the microwave range. This is roughly the same frequency as your microwave oven.
Now, there are tons and tons of whistleblowers coming out about this technology and how dangerous and damaging and deadly it is. This is not for internet. You want to know if it's true? Go right up to one of those damn towers and see how good your service is. It's still going to suck. These things are not for internet service or communications. It's a weapon. They are frying you with microwaves while you sleep. If you saw in the video, did you notice where it wasn't, where they weren't microwaving the population while they slept? All the areas of the country that are the least populated. Is that by accident? Those microwaves just magically don't go to those certain areas of the country? No, there's no reason to do it there. There's very few people that live there compared to the populated areas of the country that have huge cities in them. That's where you notice they are microwaving you to death. Are you feeling sick? Are you feeling lethargic? You can't think straight. You're not sleeping well. You're having crazy dreams. All of this stuff is radiation poisoning. Look up the symptoms of radiation poisoning. You're going to see they identically match a lot of your symptoms that you're having. Funny enough, it also matches a lot of the symptoms of COVID. Crazy how that works. So I'm you guys, you have got to understand what's happening. And they're talking about putting up 4 times the amount of towers in the next 4 years. Why would they need that? We can prove that it's not for internet. It's not for cell phone service. So why? You need to start asking yourself, why are they putting these things up at an unprecedented rate and then lying to your face about what they're for? Reach out. Let's connect. Let's figure out the plan of how we stop this.
So this was here's I put this list in as this is how the space fence works through all of this stuff. 5G, 6G telecom industry, radar installations, ionosphere keeters, power lines, NexRads, microwave cell towers, masts, fiber optic cable, phased array antennas, fracking wells, smart meters, particle accelerators, green tech, like wind farms, solar panels. All of these types of things are what Billy Hayes led me through in the second book, and Under an Ionized Sky. This is how I would talk about directed energy weapons. All of these are what are known to the military as dual use. Dual use infrastructure on Earth is calibrated to work in sync with space fence structures above the Earth. So kind of memorize that. That's how it works. And we're sandwiched between these two systems that are synchronized to work together. So, when people talk about just one thing, like say the 5G, and activists become very upset over the 5G. I understand that. I get that. And it is upsetting. But unless you understand its role in the rest of this, I don't think you're going to get the picture of how you're going to be controlled and you won't know it. You really won't know it. You'll just think that you're sick because you've got a cold, or you're getting COVID, or you're this or you're that. And you won't realize the amount of radiation that you're undergoing. Okay, then I just basically repeat what I just said in the whole presentation. Chemical trails from commercial and military jets, drones, rockets, satellite, NexRad radiation, rain, snow, fog, GMO foods. I didn't do that one. Sorry about that, but that's a huge topic.
I'm sure it is, but I bet people can infer just from this conversation where that conversation might lead.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I am, just for kindness sake, I do include, here's the 7 geoengineering operations. I've made my way through all of them. You didn't notice. Oh, we didn't do the geoengineered fires. And that's part of the planetary geophysical engineering. They're all geoengineered, those fires.
Yes, they are.
Here's this on the synthetic foods that you call GMOs. The long-term epigenetic assault on the earth and its people began with Big Pharma's control over the food supply in GMO smart fields. Sterile terminator seed has been used for several generations, I think three generations, to grow genetically modified foods. The seed is incapable of reproducing because it has no biophoton energy, which means it is synthetic. Everybody who has eaten nothing but GMO foods, no organic, never growing their own, I'm telling you, you are eating synthetic food and it has made your body synthetic. So the transhuman thing got a really big start back when they were just starting out with the GMO smart fields. So,
Wow.
these are things we need to know, even though they're painful. Here's all the countries that have banned GMOs. Notice Russia, they're going to be way ahead, because they know they're getting ready for the future where there will be human beings. So maybe I'll just, if I reincarnate in another lifetime, I'll just head for Russia because I have a chance of coming across real human beings there.
Oh,
So,
man.
and that's it. Oh, and then, well, I don't know. Should I stop?
Well, I think if let's see what time it is. It's about 6:09 here anyway. I think it's probably a good place to stop. How much more do you have?
Not almost none.
Oh,
I included
keep
this.
going then. Keep going.
Yeah, I included a couple of slides of pictures from a very important book called COVID Vaccines from a Spiritual Perspective, Consequences for the Soul and Spirit and for Life After Death. Kind of a catchy title. And Thomas Mayer is the man who wrote it. He is clairvoyant from birth, and he works with about 50 clairvoyants in Europe. Not some are Steiner people, most aren't. And they are either being begged and asked by families of people who had the inoculations and died to help their loved ones on the other side of the threshold who have already died, who are complaining of being absolutely paralyzed so that they cannot go forward and cannot move back either. So this is what I thought. Oh, and what you're looking at here is simply when you talk about the soul, everybody kind of looks deer in the headlights because nobody thinks you know what a soul looks like. I mean, we see our bodies. Some of us posit that there's a soul living in that body. We're not just a mechanical creature. But they don't have any idea of what the soul looks like. It's like maybe some vague, fluffy, foggy looking thing. According to Rudolf Steiner, those who are clairvoyant can actually see it. And I have had people come up to me and tell me about my aura. Now, that I know. And the aura would be probably this eye organization, this one. But this is where your soul is balanced. All the parts of it, and it has several parts, is all in balance. The yellow thing behind me, behind the soul, is the angel. Now, I have always felt an angel, not always, but I know I have an angel, and I have seen an angel in a church standing behind a minister, an angel of extraordinary height, I might add. I'd say 8 or 9 feet tall. And when I realized it was not an after effect of the lighting, because when the minister moved to the left, the angel still stood there, waited for him to come back. So,
Wow.
so there's the angel in normal people, pre-vax, no vax. You have this balance here. And I won't talk about the doppelganger, but that's a very interesting part of our development that we have to put up with while we're here. Now let me show you someone after the vaccine. So what happens is there's a fragmentation. It reminds me of MK Ultra when they do dissociation with people. That's something that dissociates the parts of your soul so that they're all kind of separate. And you don't have that balance that you need as a soul. And this is where people get stuck on the other side. Yeah, they're getting stuck.
So wait, can you talk to me a little about that though? What do you mean they're getting stuck? Like, why? How could that be? And I know I'm not trying to talk about like fairness of the universe, fairness of the world, but like these people were tricked into taking a shot
Yeah,
and now they're
yeah.
stuck.
Well, the way I look at it and the way Thomas Mayer looks at it and some of the people who are his cohorts in doing this and helping these people, because what they do is they go into a meditation online. They're all over the world, these people. And they put one person's problem in front of them. Maybe they have a picture of the person. I don't know how they do that. But then they all concentrate on that one person through their own skills and attempt to move that person forward and get them to move because they are paralyzed to the point of terror. They are all in terror.
They're
Now,
stuck. They're stuck.
and I heard in 2020, how people were saying, oh, they want to depopulate the earth.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that if the elites wanted to depopulate the earth, they were going to have a problem with reincarnation. Now, a lot of people don't think there is reincarnation. We're one of the few countries in the world that has decided there's no reincarnation. But I experienced reincarnation when I was 8 and was very clear about one incarnation. And truthfully, I've never remembered another one. I've remembered fragments of things that don't fit really, but no, that one I remembered. That one I got. So I've known that, to me, a good God, no matter how you picture it, I don't picture the guy with the beard in the sky. I guess I see the universe. But a God who loves humanity. Rudolf Steiner said that the human being is the religion of the gods. Now, what that means, I have no idea, but it definitely, I can see reasons for that because we're the only free will being who has to really struggle to keep our free will and to not be enslaved, to not be tricked and deceived by the great deceivers. But I think that how it works is we come into our body, we have this soul, we develop our soul, we experience pain, we experience joy, we experience all sorts of things as a soul, and we slowly, most of us, I don't think everyone, but we may get some information from who we've been before, what we learned last time, what we learned, 1,000 years ago, whatever it is. That's all very vague. That's not something that we have real access to. But if you want to get rid of the population of the earth, you're going to have to make it so that the people who want to reincarnate and have that on automatic that they're coming back can't get in, can't come back because you're doing depopulation. You want there to be a few billion people less. And you're going to have to figure that out. And I knew that. And that's why I've always felt that they were culling the race, not depopulating per se, because
Sure.
there is reincarnation. There is reincarnation. And the bad boys, as I call them, have to come to terms with that, of what their plan for that is. Well, wouldn't that be quite a plan that you have a drug that when people take it, into their body. It goes into the delta muscle, and then it goes into the bloodstream. It goes beyond the blood-brain barrier, blah, blah, blah. That you have made it with your black magicians who are biochemists and bio this and bio that. You've made it so that they can't move. They can't go forward into the wonderful, delightful different levels of the heavenly kingdom, or the, where you develop, you digest the life you just had and get ready to prepare to enter another one, whatever it is. I don't have it exact.
I know what you mean.
You make it so that you can't move. You cannot move. And the terror to be in the land of the dead, or whatever you want to call it, where you can't move. It would be almost like being breathless. You can't have an existence there. You're stuck. So that's what Thomas and his friends are all dedicated to, and they're
Wow.
still. The book came out a few years ago, and he's a lovely guy. And I think that's what we've got going here is we had a really black magic ritual performed on the human race, and they were quite successful. Quite successful. How many billions? I mean, uh, I won't comment on that. Does evil pay? No, this ain't over yet.
No, I agree. I agree.
So that's that. And then all this is just more of Sabrina Wallace in looking at here. She says this diagram shows all the components that are introduced during the COVID inoculation. Together they act as a network for, what's that say?
Monitoring
the body.
the human body. Yeah.
This is why I say we're all plugged in. It's true that I'm not completely controlled. I can tell by how my mind is still functioning with basically my own thoughts. Now and then, I do experience strangeness. One night I went to bed to sleep, and I was awakened in the middle of the night. And then I went back to sleep, and in the morning I got up by a phone call, and the person who was calling me, I didn't recognize them, and I thought it was after Christmas, but it really wasn't after Christmas. I couldn't remember what I had done in the last few days. I mean, something had happened to me while I was sleeping, and then I found a coiled, sort of looked like it had electricity running through it at some point, a little clump of my hair out of my scalp, lying all in a swirl on my bed. So was somebody in my apartment and did that to me? No, I tend to think it was done from satellite, and I think it was done with laser. But, I had to sit down with my calendar that day and go through every day in order to bring my time sense back into line.
So if you were to say this might be happening to you, you just mentioned some of the symptoms, but what should you look for?
Well, I awakened, I think, when it had happened, because what I remember from when I awakened is it seemed to me it was either a dream or it was real. My entire bedroom was lit up and illuminated like huge. I mean, it was just blindingly filled with light, but not a good light. It felt almost like a surgical theater where
Sure.
they had all those LEDs. It felt like LEDs is what it felt like.
Okay.
And I was able to go back to sleep. But in the morning when I answered the phone, and, very concerning to the person who called me, because I didn't know who they were. I didn't know
Wow.
it was after Christmas. I was just gone. And that definitely got my attention. If that was targeting, they definitely got my attention. But I have not had anything since, and that was last Christmas.
Okay. That's interesting. Really interesting. You have me a little spooked out, I'll admit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was spooked out. I've saved the hair, and as time goes on, the hair is less and less crinkly. which makes sense that and I checked my scalp, like it was I don't know, about 12 hairs, not many. So anyway, you see my point about
Yes,
this.
I do.
And we are now, I'm in a live blood analysis group with some doctors and researchers, medical researchers, and we are seeing uh, shapes and things like these little bits and pieces here and
Wow,
there. We're seeing all that in the blood, in the blood. So there we go.
that's incredible.
I know.
It's not incredible in a good way, but
Uh,
well, I think today, you really touched on all the big questions that I've had prior to the conversation and to what we've recorded here. And you've given me really a lot to think about. And that's pretty much how I've felt every time I've touched your work is like, it's almost like a feeling of like, oh shit, like I have to dive into this. I don't want to, but I have to. And I often walk away feeling like, ooh, when I read, especially when I read this book. Um, but it's definitely going on, and I've experienced some of the things that you've talked about in my own life. You've answered some of the questions that I've wondered about, like the dog leash you mentioned with folks that have taken the inoculations, and really the fact that there was a satellite that was satellites that were shot into into space prior to the COVID catastrophe, whatever you want to call it. Um, and that's really it's interesting to say the least. And I think it's shocking. It's scary. It's all of these things, these words. I think where I'm going with what I'm saying is the beauty of what you're saying and what you're talking about, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is the other side of this, is the other side of humanity. So there's this crazy group of people or groups of people doing this work and these types of things, but then there's the opposite out there that exists, which includes myself, you, a handful of other researchers and scientists and doctors around the country who are now really ripping into this work and figuring out what the hell is in our atmospheres and what's getting into our bodies. What are the health impacts of geoengineering? We can talk about chemtrails being sprayed. That's now we're at least allowed to talk about that. Let's say at least more so than we have been in the past. But what are the impacts? And it's not just the weather. That's not even close.
Not even close. It's really not. So I mean, there's you see why there are just so many aspects to this that a one-time round it really doesn't work. Now I
No,
am starting a course. I wanted you to know about this, and I'll send you the flyer.
great.
2 weeks. If he has the numbers, this is an Irish group who are inviting authors who have at least 3 books, who have written at least 3 books, to present a course that will last for 6 months, and people will read the books of the author, and the author will meet with those people for 75 minutes every month, not much. And then eventually it will be the course will end, and then they'll do a recap, and they can contact each other via uh, online site throughout their reading. So the people taking the course
Wow.
have ability, and it's not that expensive. They didn't charge an arm and a leg at all. And I'll make a little bit of money, not a lot, but a little. And
Sure.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's just great.
I think it's a great idea too, because the more you get people talking about this stuff, the more people hear about it, know about it. They're going to take your work, and they're going to say, "Wait, there's all these other implications based off, kind of like you've done, kind of like you've described." Um, and I think that'll be really, really good for people. My hope, as the geoengineers seem to be kind of like unveiling some of what they're up to, my hope is it's people don't take it and they say, "This is great. this is great stuff that we're doing. Wow, we're really got control of the weather. We're changing bodies. We're changing humanity. This is really cool. I worry about that too, because I've already seen that with some folks.
Yeah, right.
So I also hope that doesn't happen. But I think again, there's this polar nature to the universe, whereas there's always going to be the negative force opposing the positive force, and hopefully, as more people begin to understand your work, and what's been being done, because your work is really explaining what's been happening for decades, and that's what I think is scary, is like how deep are we into this today, right now, 2025. I don't think we even have a clue. We're just peeling back the layers of the last 25 years.
Well, and that's how I feel about the 30 states seeking to end the chemtrails over
Yes,
is this is a complex issue, and so I'm watching to see what the response is of like Robert Kennedy and the powers that be who are good and not good, to see how they're going to handle this, because they can't they've been able to call tinfoil hat and conspiracy theorists for all these years, but obviously now it's leaking out. Truth always wins out, and they're going to have to figure out another narrative in order to. I think one of the narratives they're going for now is to make it look like weather modification is separate from geoengineering, and that is simply not true.
absolutely. That's so. I just did this debate with this Augustus Dorico of the company Rainmaker, who they're doing some cloud seeding out in California. Apparently, this fella, to me, I think there's a lot more behind him than even he realizes. But he's really big on trying to make the distinction that cloud seeding isn't chemtrails, and there's all these different terminology to describe cloud seeding, chemtrails, geoengineering, weather modification, climate modification. It's all different, but it's really not. It's not at the end of the day. Like there's different techniques being used, sure, but
But
it's
there,
still.
but there's also, remember, they will have compartmentalized it among the geoengineers as well.
They
And
don't know exactly, so they only know what they're doing and what they're
uh,
working on,
they
which
may
is
not
he
know.
he is a textbook book example of that, where like we're explaining to him, I'm explaining to him, chemtrails, the conspiracy theory, and then like I'm not even getting into the nitty gritty of space fence or any of the transhumanist stuff, because the people listening during the debate, that's not the framework of which the conversation is in. We're talking about whether or not cloud seeding is good or bad, right? But that's it, So I just I know in my mind I'm like there's all this other stuff going on, but I have to stay here.
Yeah,
So
that's how they
it's
get.
yes, yes. Well, I think this is a good moment to wrap it up. Elana, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today and talking with me. And really, I feel so blessed today because I got a private lecture from you. That's what I get. I feel like I learned some stuff, like some really awesome stuff. So thank you.
Yeah, well,
Um,
put it out there, to the
absolutely.
yeah, and feel free to share it with whoever. I don't care.
No, this will be shared online. It's going to go on my X page. It's going to go on our Substack. And if people wanted to find you and your work, where can they find you?
Well, I don't have a website anymore. It was sabotaged a year ago. So I am now using. I have a Facebook site they still allow me, which is called EMF Planetary Engineering. You have to ask to be a member, and then you get access to all my commentary. And I am commenting every morning at that site. And I'm also commenting every morning on various news items, including geoengineering, but not just geoengineering. Things that I think people need guidance in as we enter this new phase. I'm also doing a Patreon site,
Okay.
and then Patreon Elana Freeland. And someday I may make another website, but that's kind of low on my to-do list right now.
Okay. Well, Thank you again, Alana. And this is Paul Bean signing off from Bean Studios here in Northfield, Vermont. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.